They said she was untrainable. The only thing left for her was either go back to the shelter or get euthanized. I remember sitting on the floor in my room, crying, holding her to my chest and thinking, help me reach your mind. We have children that are relying on these dogs. We have single, lonely people that live alone, and this dog is their lifeline.
Welcome back to Tales of Fluff. I'm Emily.
And I'm AJ. In today's episode, this one will definitely stay with you. We're talking with someone who has dedicated nearly 30 years to training dogs, not just for obedience, but to be lifelines.
These are dogs that walk beside veterans, comfort children in hospitals, work in police departments, and help people who've lost so much rediscover what it means to live again.
Their story starts in Russia, but their impact reaches all across the U.S., driven by a deep commitment to pairing the right dog with the right person and making sure that connection isn't just helpful, but life-changing.
This episode isn't just about dog training. It's about trauma, healing, second chances, and the kind of bond that can bring someone back from the edge.
So, if you ever wondered what it really takes to build a dog that changes the world, this is the story.
Let's get into it.
We started with a simple but important question. How long have you been training dogs, and what led you down this path?
So I have been training dogs officially as my career for 28 years. I officially started my career in Russia. I was born in Russia. My mother and father bred dogs and showed and competed with dogs, which sort of transferred to me, and they trained dogs as well. So I started training when I was a child. At first, I started training, obviously helping with my family dogs, but then I quickly realized that there's possibility of actually making money doing that. And as you may know, some dogs that are titled, and then they could be titled and they're working like tracking dogs or biting dogs or obedience dogs, or they could be titled in just a confirmation, kind of like the Westminster show. So when they're titled, that proves their quality, and then the puppies are born and they're very highly sought after. So I started working with other people's dogs, helping them title their dogs, training our own family dogs, and that kind of started my career. And then more and more people reached out, so I started training for them. And that was back in Russia. I moved to the United States in 2001, so it's been 24 years ago, and I've been training dogs here since the day I moved here.
I love that this started with their family, just helping with dogs as kids. But what stood out to me is how early they realized it could become more, not just a job, but something that could actually impact people's lives.
Yeah, and I absolutely love how it started with family dogs, and then just one day they realized, wait a minute, this can mean something. This can help people. And that shift from just loving an animal to changing lives through them, that right there is very powerful.
So then we asked about the very first time they trained a dog that made a real difference, the kind that leaves a mark on your heart.
I do remember the very first dog I trained, and I think that was the beginning of when I decided that I want to train dogs that change lives. They say if you lived a life and never changed one person's life, you didn't really live a full life. And so just that gratifying feeling of being able to make somebody's life better and bring a better quality lifestyle to that person, it's a very amazing feeling. So I do remember it touched me so deeply to be able to help this person to have a much better quality life through dog training, which I already knew how to do. So that sort of was stuck with me. And that's, I think, when it really changed me. Yes, of course, we still train a lot of family dogs and pet dogs because we love being able to help people connect better with their pets, provide them with amazing companions, or help them with the existing companion dogs. We love doing that. But being able to provide dogs that change lives and truly bring a much better quality lifestyle to people is quite a gratifying feeling.
That quote, if you haven't changed someone's life, have you really lived? Wow, that right there, that stopped me.
Same, that wasn't just a memory. That was the moment everything shifted for them. It's like they realized dog training wasn't just about behavior, it was about restoring dignity, confidence, and hope to someone's life.
And they still do pet training, which is a beautiful thing. But when you hear how passionate they are about working dogs, dogs that serve people, you understand why that became their mission.
And a part of that mission is to make sure that the right dog is chosen for the job. So we asked how they make that decision and what led them to work with breeders who focus on purpose, not just pets.
Yes. So actually, myself, I don't breed dogs, but I do have a team of amazing, top, best in the world breeders that specifically produce for us. And I sort of orchestrated that program for them. We also do take dogs out of shelters as well. The dogs that we have to use for service or therapy work, or even for police work, they require to have a very specific temperament. As you can imagine, not every single dog is born to be a service dog or even wants to be a service dog. So, to make sure before we invest all this time, training, and all this effort turning this dog into a working animal, we have to make sure we have two most important things. One is the right temperament, that the dog has the right ingredients so we can make the right dish out of it, right? And two, health. If we spend a year, 2 years training this dog, and then let's say a year later, this dog goes lame because the health is not where it needs to be, now we are setting up this patient or this customer for a heartbreak. We have children that are relying on these dogs. We have single, lonely people that live alone, and this dog is their lifeline. So now we're setting this person up for failure and for heartbreak. So those are the two most important things, and they're very hard to find. And as we all love dogs, many, many, many people love dogs. So this sort of a overwhelming amount of dogs that are produced without any quality control is what led me to be able to have to reach out to the breeders and create a program where they produce very, very, very high quality dogs that are very healthy. Mothers and fathers are tested thoroughly for 165 different DNA on DNA tests for 165 different genetic possible illnesses to make sure they're free of any diseases. They're x-rayed, they're temperament tested. So when the puppies are born, they actually go through training from the day they are born. They start getting neurological stimulation. They are handled, they're exposed in a very gentle way, but in a sort of a specific way to make sure that they're prepared for the future job. And when these puppies are 8 weeks old, we test each puppy. So I created a test, a temperament test, over 28 years of doing this. And I'll tell you more a little bit about it. But through that test, we're able to select the best of the best puppies. The rest of them that don't necessarily make the cut, or maybe they just don't feel like their cup of tea, the career of a working dog, they get placed into loving families. So families get quite nice quality dogs out of that. So myself, I don't breed dogs, but we do have very, 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 like I said, high quality breeders that produce for our program.
What hit me here was how much heartbreak they're trying to prevent. It's like this isn't just about finding a great dog, it's about protecting people from future loss.
Especially for kids or adults who are counting on these dogs. I never thought about how devastating it could be to spend 2 years training a dog only for that dog to develop health issues. That would truly be heartbreaking.
It's so interesting. They start with science, DNA testing, x rays, temperament evaluation, and I absolutely love that metaphor. Making sure the dog has the right ingredients before you start cooking.
It makes so much sense. You don't gamble with lives. You build the best foundation possible.
And the foundation starts super early. We asked how they evaluate puppies and decide which ones are suited for what kind of work.
So we designed this temperament test, like I said, and we don't just select dogs. We not only select dogs for service and therapy work, but we also select dogs for military, special forces, police. So we kind of have to look for those like little Navy SEAL puppies, is what I call them. The test consists of 20 steps. It is designed by me and redesigned and sort of tested in life. And then we compare to the results of different puppies, how they develop and mature and change the test. So over 28 years, we've modified it. And now we have a very unique proprietary test. It consists of 20 steps. And during those steps, we test the puppy's IQ, their ability to solve problems, their resilience to stress, their reaction to visual startle and the reaction to loud sounds, their dependency or independency from the handler, their affection level. So there are many different things that we're testing to make sure the puppy has the right temperament to do the job. And the breeders can reach out, and if they want us to test their puppies, we can do that too. So the outside breeders occasionally, or not occasionally, but quite often actually, reach out to us, and we will go and test their puppies. And it helps them place the puppies correctly so they know maybe not to place a rambunctious little puppy with the energy level 9 out of 10 with an older family or older couple. And then the opposite puppy that's maybe a little bit tender and sensitive, not to place it into a family with 4 little boys in the family. Where little boys jump off the coffee tables in a Superman suit and drop things and bang on things. And so the test is quite unique, but it's a magical tool to have.
The test they created, 22 steps, refined over decades. That's no gimmick, that's dedication.
It's not just about obedience, it's emotional intelligence, problem solving, how they handle stress. Things that you would never know just from playing with a puppy in the living room.
And the part about placing the right pup with the right family, they're not just testing for jobs, they're testing for fit, for happiness.
And that brings us to what I think might be the heart of it all, the bond. We asked her if they'd ever witnessed a connection between a dog and a person that just completely changed their life.
So we hear many stories like that, and in a way it's what makes us wake up every morning and get up and go again and again and again. This is what we live for, and I can't tell you how many times a week we hear stories that our clients call us. We recently placed 45 dogs into therapy dogs into schools in West Virginia in different counties that were affected by poverty and drug abuse, where children don't necessarily have the right motivation or role models to get them to education. And some of the attendance in some places was 50%. It went to 100%, a perfect attendance when we put a dog in a school. This was a program sponsored by the governor, former governor, and the First Lady Justice. And the impact is so incredible. It's quite impossible to describe it, but it's not just the kids that are looking forward to go to school. There are so many staff members, they come to us and say, I had a really hard day. I just want to sit down and have a 10-minute therapy session with this dog. We have dogs that go to work in the police departments that are therapy dogs, where an officer comes in after seeing something really bad that he cannot unsee. And nothing like seeing an officer rolling around like a 3-year-old toddler on the floor with a dog. Shake it off, smile, and go back to work. Service dog, this is we're talking about therapy dogs. Funeral homes, we've got dogs in hospitals, we've got dogs in Ronald McDonald houses where kiddos are going through very difficult medical procedures. And I remember one Ronald McDonald house called us and said, hey, when is the dog coming? We lost 6 babies this week. Our staff needs this dog. We have currently 2 dogs in training right now for the local hospitals, and these dogs are specifically for the staff, because the patients sometimes get volunteers come in and bring their dogs, but the surgeon coming out of a difficult surgery or nurse who is taking care of a patient that passed away maybe suddenly, they don't have the access to those dogs at their call as needed. So we are providing these dogs for them. The service dogs changing people's lives. I can again give you endless stories. We have veterans who barricade themselves in the house and trying to then go on an urgent list. We've got veterans that won't leave their house or just won't interact with their families. And now they're flying on planes, they're going to football games, they're going to restaurants. And their wives even say, this dog changed our family's life. This is what kept our family together. These veterans call us and say, I'm alive because of this dog. And it makes me tear up every time I hear these stories. And we're training a dog right now for a young lady who is about to retire her dog, who's currently almost 10 years old. And she is in a wheelchair. So obviously the world is not really designed for people that live in a wheelchair. Not every door has a button that opens up the door electronically. And imagine being in a wheelchair when you drop a card or car key or something and you can't reach down to pick it up. So this dog that she has right now got her through high school, got her through college, got her through, now she has a job and she works. And this dog was in the yearbook school book, and he graduated from college with her, and he's basically her lifeline to what she's able to do. And now she's retiring it. We are training a replacement dog for her, and I can't quite think of being more honored in life than be a part of this girl's life to make her life a little bit better. I've got another client just like that where he just lost his service dog. He lives in a wheelchair as well, and he lives alone. And he almost died because he accidentally flipped backwards outside in Syracuse, New York, where it's very cold during wintertime. He almost froze to death. So luckily, somebody spotted him and they were able to push him inside after he was almost hypothermic. But the dog is trained to retrieve. Now he had this dog, and the dog was able to retrieve his phone from any point, anywhere he is, and bring him his phone and pick up items, open doors, do things like that. So now he lost his dog due to old age, and he called me and he said, I didn't realize how much this dog meant to me until now, because now he's gone and I don't have that. So we can tell you endless stories of how these dogs change lives. We place about 100 to 110 dogs a year all around the country with customers that are using them as therapy dogs, service dogs, police works, military dogs, and things like that. Keeping you smiling and going, giving you a reason to get up and go outside.
The 45 therapy dogs recently placed in schools in West Virginia that were affected by poverty and kids didn't have the right motivation or role models, how much those dogs changed those kids' lives, that just amazed me.
Same. From 50% attendance to 100%, that's just crazy. And all because of a dog. And then you hear that even the teachers and the staff needed those therapy dogs just as much as the students. That just says everything right there.
And it's not just kids, it's veterans, officers, hospital staff, people dealing with real trauma, real grief. These dogs become the emotional anchor they may not even known they needed.
But that kind of bond doesn't just appear. It takes real work from both the dog and the human. So we asked how they prepare people to step into that role.
So we call it, in-house, we call it transfer of loyalty. Every handler goes through a handler's course. Now, the links of it depends on the type of dog that they're getting, whether it's a therapy dog or service dog or a police dog. So I'll kind of give you an example. A therapy dog, the handler will go through 3 days of training with us. The dog has to understand this is my new person, my new boss, and I have to listen to them. And we kind of sort of disconnecting the umbilical cord from us and letting that person take over. So now the dog knows, okay, I get all the goodies from them. I get all the praise from them. I get things I like toys and food from them. And I have to listen to their voice. Everyone's voice is different. So today, for example, we were doing a handover to one of the police officers, and the same command spoken by him, it just means nothing to the dog. Like, for example, if you walk out on the street with your dog and some stranger walks up and tells your dog to down, we don't expect your dog to just down for somebody. It takes a little bit of bonding. So we call it transfer of loyalty. So for therapy dogs, it's 3 full days. We do training of the handler. For service dogs, it takes a one work week. We send the trainer offsite to the location where the customer is located, and the trainer stays there, or the customer is welcome to come to our facility as well. And then we do this transfer of loyalty for a week. We train them how to say the commands. The dog needs to get used to them. For police officers, we're actually about to start our graduation class. We call it our graduation class because that's when the dogs are graduating. The dogs are already officially assigned. We have fully trained them. And then it's like an NFL draft. The police officers come in and then we kind of match them and they pick out their dogs. And then they begin handler's course. The handler's course for police is 4 weeks. So they stay on somewhere nearby in a hotel, and then we spend 8 to 10 hours a day for 4 weeks straight, having them work their dogs, operate their dogs, learn, bond together. And then for families, just let's say you bring your personal companion pet dog and leave it with us for 2 weeks of training or 4 weeks of training. Then we spend 1 full day with you at the end teaching you everything the dog learned. But of course, the dog remembers you because they met and they love you. The dogs that we are transferring over to a new handler, we call it a rule of 3. The first 3 days are a little bit confusing to the dog because it's all new to them and they don't quite understand who this person is. And that's why we do that training. The first 3 weeks is about what it takes them to get used to the schedule in the new place, when to go to the bathroom, when to go to bed, when to eat. And the first 3 months is what it takes approximately before they actually bond with that person. And then it's kind of, in a way, it's bittersweet. As we said goodbye today to a police dog, we send him home to go bond with his officer. The dog he doesn't want to take his eyes off of us because we are, as trainers, we are his universe, the center of his universe. But in 3 months, this dog will come out, say hi to them, and then run back to his handler and say, "Okay, what are we doing next? You're my new best friend."
Hearing her describe it as a transfer of loyalty, that concept brings to light how much more goes into training the dogs. Not just teaching them commands, but also the process of getting them equipped to be able to go to their new owners.
Yeah, and saying goodbye to a trainer and learning to trust someone new, that's not a small thing for a dog. Sometimes it takes weeks, sometimes months to really settle in.
And I like how they broke it down 3 days of confusion, 3 weeks of adjusting, 3 months to truly bond. It's not magic, it's patience and persistence.
We were also curious about the behind the scenes stuff. What really goes into training that we don't see.
I would say role playing. Dogs, I always compare dogs to 2-year-old children. So you have to role play with your little child and you have to kind of pretend and set up like situations when we're playing with a dog, whether we're playing that it's a bad guy hiding in a house and or it's some bad guy that we're trying to find or some lost child that we're trying to have the dog find and follow the track to locate where they are, or if it's let's say, a service dog that we're training and we have to pretend that we are having an episode of epilepsy and seizing on the floor. So the trainers have to literally reenact all that. Sometimes we'll ask for videos from a parent to show us what the child is doing. Sometimes we get children that are obsessive compulsive, like they twist their hair and rip their hair, or they smack their hands, or they hurt themselves, or if the person is seizing, so we will reenact that. So there is a lot of role playing, and our bad guy who plays the bad guy for police dogs, he's not really a bad guy, right? He's one of our trainers. And this is just a very, very well rehearsed game. So when people come in and they see these dogs attacking him and biting him in a special bite suit that protects his body, they think these dogs are being mean and they're just being aggressive. But the truth is, they're not. It's just a rehearsed game. Or if they're seeing a dog holding a child back from an autistic child, say nonverbal, non-comprehensive child, from running, the dog is holding him back from running onto the road and getting hit by a car. The dog is trying to either push him away with his body or he's attached via a leash and the dog is dragging him away. They think, oh my gosh, this dog is so talented and so amazing and so caring. What people don't understand, it's a very well rehearsed theater. It's a very well rehearsed game. At some point, there was a trainer that acted like a child that ran towards the road, and another trainer that said, "Hey, when you see this behavior, you come to me, I give you a cookie, and I praise you." So I think the most surprising thing is just that so much playing and so much acting that goes into it.
I didn't know how much role playing was involved, like actual trainers pretending to have seizures or be a lost child. That's commitment.
And it really shows how much dogs learn through experience. You can't just teach with words. You have to create the world the dog is expected to respond to.
It also made me appreciate how much trust goes into the process. It's not just about following commands, it's about understanding context.
But even with all that training, some goodbyes still hurt. And we asked about that. And wow,
Yes, and the fact there were two that I didn't, they almost crumbled me to the point where I questioned whether I could do this or not. One in particular, it was a bomb dog that I trained for a department in Texas. And this dog was in a shelter. It was dumped in a shelter. It was a golden retriever. She went to two different rescues and she kind of failed. So I ended up getting her. She had some bad behaviors and bad habits. I thought I sort of fixed them. And then I placed her into a company that trains a lot of police dogs. They rejected her after a couple of weeks and they said she was untrainable. And then I realized the only thing left for her was either go back to the shelter or get euthanized. She wasn't going to make a good pet. And I was her last basically stop. That was it. And I remember sitting on the floor in my room, crying, holding her to my chest and thinking, help me reach your mind. I need to figure out how to train you because you just don't follow the normal steps of training. And to be honest, that dog made me a much better trainer. I ended up training her and she became an amazing, amazing dog. She was in ESPN magazine. She was she had quite a fan club. She was one of the best bomb sniffing working dogs in Texas. She worked many NFL games, big oil conferences, conventions, and basketball games. And when I dropped her off at the airport to send her off, I I'm used to saying goodbye to dogs and giving them to their handlers, but in this one, I was crying so hard I couldn't see the road. I had to pull over on the side of the highway because I was no longer safe. I couldn't see anything in front of me, and I thought to myself, okay, you either gonna have to figure out how to do this or you can't do this because this is not normal. And so that was one of the hardest ones. And I've trained thousands of dogs. And then the other one was a customer who, all of them are hard. We tear up, but this one was, I cried the entire way from the airport home when I got home. And luckily my husband picked me up. A customer, very, very capable, good looking young man. He was a very successful chef, traveled the world, cooked for some amazing celebrities and high profile figures. When skiing in the mountains, he hit a slope, didn't fall or anything, just kind of hit it a little bit too hard, broke his back, got paralyzed from his neck down. And like that was the last time he saw his girlfriend. He almost died. They did many surgeries. He sort of ended up living a very lonely, secluded life, very limited life. He can't really go anywhere. He's fully paralyzed from the chest down. So that's the person I told you that almost died, that fell backwards on the chair. So I brought him a dog and I lived with him for a year, teaching him how to operate a dog. And I listened to many stories of his. And I said, I brought these treats for the dog that required cutting into smaller pieces because we don't want to give the dog big pieces. We wanted to give him little bitty pieces so we can give him quite a few. So I said, okay, let me cut up those pieces of those treats for you. And he pointed to his toolbox that was sitting underneath a shelf. It was kind of dusty little toolbox. I got it out, and in that box were all his chef's tools. There was that big chef's knife and all the tools that he used to use when he traveled the world as a famous chef. And he hasn't used them because he can't really hold them anymore. So I dusted them off when I used them, and I just started crying, and that the honor of being, and he sat there watching me use his knives that he wasn't able to use for so many years. And the stories he told me were quite heart touching. And just watching him navigate through life being disabled. And I said, how do you do this? I mean, you went from being so athletic and so like just capable. And he said, Julie, it's very, very difficult. And one thing is to not have it and be born with it. And another thing is to lose it. When you lose it, you really, really miss it. And it kind of hit hard. And that dog was just his lifeline for so many years. So I just grew to love that guy, and I just grew to like really, he kind of hit me hard into my heart. So when my husband picked me up at the airport and I told him these stories, it was very emotional for me. So yeah, those are some of the hard goodbyes, and some of them are to the dogs and some of them are to, believe it or not, to the customers that we kind of bond with.
The bomb dog story was incredible. Just imagining her on the floor crying, trying to figure out how to reach this misunderstood dog, and then watching her go on to become one of the best in her field, that truly shows what redemption looks like.
And the story about the paralyzed chef using his old knives for the first time in years, that right there might be one of the most emotional moments we've ever had on this show.
You can tell how much that moment meant, not just for the man, but for our guests. That connection, it changes everyone involved.
So you might be listening and thinking, hey, you know what? I want to do that kind of work. And we absolutely don't blame you for thinking that way. What Julie has built is very inspiring, but really you need to get advice from the professionals. So we asked Julie, for someone listening who dreams about doing what you do, especially with working dogs, what's one piece of advice you would want to give them?
I would recommend, now for dog trainers, I would recommend Don't try to learn training dogs online. You are not going to learn to train an animal online. They're all different. Go out there, go volunteer at the shelter, go learn to maybe do volunteer work first, be a dog walker. You will learn a lot more from the dogs. If you can, find a reputable trainer and ask them to just say, if you really want to do this, you don't have to pay a lot of money. There are courses out there that are very expensive. We have a trainer's course that's very expensive. But I'll tell you who my most amazing trainers were. The trainers that came and became interns. They interned for free. They scooped dog poop, they cleaned puppies, they bathed them, they did all that in return to gain knowledge. And go find a trainer who is very good at what they do, not the trainer who just wrote a book, but the trainer who is actually hands-on training out there, and see if you can ask them, convince them to let you shadow them, do whatever work they ask you to do, just so you can learn hands-on, and go volunteer at the shelters, because those dogs will teach you a lot. They may not have any manners, they may have some baggage, but you will learn a lot more hands-on than online. And as far as the breeders are concerned, I would recommend, if you're a breeder, don't breed for quantity, breed for quality. You can charge more money for a very high quality dog, and people will respect you a lot more if you produce a high quality dog versus if you're knocking puppies, constantly making more and more puppies that are not good quality. Those are the puppies that will end up in shelters. If you're producing something, produce high quality, well socialized, well stimulated, well bred puppies that people will enjoy having for many, 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 many years. And those dogs will not end up in any shelters.
I like how she didn't sugarcoat it. You want to do this? Get your hands dirty, scoop the poop, clean the kennels, watch, listen, and learn.
And a reminder to breeders: breed for quality, not quantity. That's a big one. That's how you protect the future of dogs and people.
So today, we are going to give you guys something a little bit extra. Normally, after we are done interviewing our guest, we talk to them well after the interview's over. And so we decided in this episode, we will share with you guys what that conversation sounded like. We hope you guys enjoyed this extra piece of conversation we had with Julie as much as we did. Thank you so much, Julie, for coming on our podcast and talking with us today and taking the time out of your busy schedule.
My pleasure. Anytime, guys.
Yeah, thank you, Julie. I almost teared up when you were talking about like the doctors that lost X amount of kids. Man,
Yeah.
because you don't think about it. Like to me, a police officer, yeah, like he sees a lot of stuff. A doctor does a lot of surgeries, but the fact that they have to go through the stuff and see the stuff that a normal person doesn't, and then all of a sudden they're just alone.
Yeah. How do you go back into a room after you just
Yeah.
lost your patients under your scalpel, and you got to go into another one and operate another child and not think about what just happened? We just
Yeah.
donated a dog to two different children advocacy centers. One of them, when I was talking to them, I just sat there quietly and listened to them. And they see about 700 beaten, abused children that are taken away from their families. And they said that when they take these kids away, they can't get them to talk. And they're hoping that the dog would get them to talk, because people seem to obviously be scary. Adult people are scary to these kids, what happened to these children in the past. So they won't open up, but they need them to talk because they need to get the case going. They need to arrest and they need to interview these children, thinking that's normal because they don't know any other way. Or when the child comes in seizing from so many blows to his body, his bones are broken and dies on the table, and they're trying to get the sibling to talk, and the sibling won't talk. So I'm like, how do you guys even work there? But now that they have a dog, they tell us that the kids come in and they will curl up in the corner with the dog, and they will talk to the dog. They will answer questions while their face is buried in the dog. And more than anything, even the staff, to them, it's a very big outlet for that horrible frustration and sadness that they get through their job. And like I said, I can tell you endless stories, not just the patients themselves, but the staff behind it. We have sometimes accountants will call us and say, could we hire your dogs to come in for a couple hours? This is a tax season and we're just going absolutely bonkers. We're so stressed. Could you just bring the dogs here for a couple hours? And we bring the dogs, and it's scientifically proven when we pet the dogs, we get that jolt of dopamine and serotonin, right? Because we release oxytocin, which is like the motherly hormone. And we just, like I said, nothing like seeing a fully grown man with the uniform on, rolling around like a 3-year-old toddler and talking, oh, puppy, giving kisses and just lolling to the puppy on the ground, get up, shake off, and go back to work.
That's crazy. I would have never thought accountants. That to me is wild. And I always tell my wife, I'm like, it bothers me so much when I see, because we're in our 20s, and it bothers me so much when I see people in their 20s that are healthy, like they have everything, and somehow they're depressed. I'm like, no, like don't say you're depressed. Like I want you to go to a children's hospital, face a child that is going through troubled times, and then tell them that you're depressed. I'm like, you don't know what
Mhm.
depression is. I'm like, don't do that. But now knowing that like kids are going through so much, and then the people that take care of
Mhm.
them, and the doctors, and the fact that now you can give them a dog, and like it helps. Like maybe it doesn't solve it, but it definitely helps. Yeah, that's amazing,
Yeah,
Julie.
it's a different perspective when you drive home from a graduating a service dog to a person in a wheelchair who wishes one more time he could get up, get that box, get that knife out, and chop one more time with it, and he can't. And but yeah, it's quite a different perspective when you work with these folks, right? And it's a very gratifying feeling, but also a very emotional, the best job in the world, and a very emotional job.
Yeah, no, we can agree with that, Julie. That's awesome.
And that wraps up our episode for today. Huge thanks again to our guests. That wasn't just an interview. This was a window into what it means to dedicate your life to service. Through dogs, through people, through love.
We'll have the links in the description if you want to see the work that they're doing or support in any way. Honestly, go look at those dogs. Go look at the YouTube videos. You'll understand everything that we've been talking about. Until next time, take care of yourself and maybe take a second look at all the dogs in your life. They might be doing more than you even realize. Never forget, one dog, the right dog, can be the reason someone keeps going.